Global Gurus recently announced Sam Silverstein as one of the world's top 30 organizational culture professionals. I might need him at my house. He has been referred to as the most trusted voice on accountability and as the author of 7 books on leadership. Sam's research into why some companies have an incredible culture that inspires people to be accountable and produces highly profitable results has led him to work with such organizations that you might have heard of, Kraft being one of them, PetSmart, Pfizer, and the Mayo Clinic. Today he'll be talking with us about the highest form of leadership. Please help me welcome Sam Silverstein, everybody.
All right.
So good to meet you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, too.
You're so good at that?
Yep, I'm good. Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you. Got our cameraman over here. We're rocking and rolling. I'm sitting in my office on a crisp December morning in St. Louis, Missouri, where I live, and the phone rings. And I answer the phone, and on the other end of the line is Sal. Now, Sal is a repeat client of mine. I've worked for him before. And for those students that are in here in business, repeat clients are good. It means hopefully we did something right somewhere along the way. And Sal wants to know if I would be his opening keynote speaker at his annual leadership conference that he runs in Washington, D.C. on Friday morning, May 18th at 9 o'clock. Now, I'm extremely honored that he's calling me and inviting me to speak at his event. And not only does he want me to speak, but he wants to license my registered trademark, No More Excuses, as the theme for his entire conference. So it was like a double honor. And I looked at my calendar and the date was available, and we discussed the fee and we agreed, and I sent him the paperwork, and he signed the paperwork and sent it back with a deposit check, and all was good with the world for about 3 weeks. Because it was about 3 weeks later that I noticed that some of my personal events had not migrated over from my personal calendar to my professional calendar. And by not migrated over, I mean I had not taken the responsibility to make sure they get there. But it was silly little stuff, you know. It was like the family spring break vacation to the mountains. My youngest daughter, Allison, I have a son and 3 girls, and it was my youngest daughter, Allison's confirmation, and my middle daughter, Jackie's high school graduation. Turns out Jackie's graduation is Thursday evening, May 17th, 7 p.m. in St. Louis, Missouri. Brief recap. I've got a Friday morning, May 18th, opening keynote speech on May 18th in Washington, D.C. I have a Thursday night graduation for my daughter, May 17th at 7 p.m. in St. Louis. And the only way out of St. Louis after 7 o'clock at night is on a donkey. I mean, you just can't fly out late at night anymore. It's not like it used to be. And so I'm starting to just get these hot sweats, and what am I going to do, and what's going to happen? And I say, okay, I've worked with Sal before. We have a relationship. I'll call him. He'll understand. I'll just speak at noon on that Friday, or it's a 2-day conference. I could speak Saturday morning. He'll work with me, and I call him up, and I get him on the phone, and I start to give him my story. And I don't think I was 15 seconds in, and Sal goes, Sam, whatever happened to no more excuses? Be careful what you say. It can come back to haunt you, right? Well, I hung up the phone, and I'm thinking, now what? Now what? What do I do? What do I do? And so I go, well, you know, this is 5 months away. I'll just let a bunch of time go by. Sal will never remember that we had this phone call. Yeah, see, you're getting into this. I like that. You see where I'm going. I'll wait till about a day or so before the event, and I'll call Sal. And I'll just say, Sal, I'm sick. I don't know how it happened. I'll send someone else from my organization. They'll do a marvelous job. And I'm thinking, that's not exactly what the guy that talks about accountability ought to be thinking in that situation, right? And then it hit me. Jackie is my third child. Okay, you know what it's like. The first child gets all the attention. By the time you get down to number 3, they raise themselves. But it's her first graduation. And so I'm really in a point of turmoil, and my wife turns to me and she says, Sam, who are you accountable to? Who are you accountable to? And I said, well, I'm accountable to the client. You know, we have an agreement, we have a deposit check. By now, we probably have a spent deposit check. You know, there's a relationship there. And I said, certainly I'm accountable to my daughter. You know, we've done everything together. I've coached her soccer club since kindergarten all the way through senior year in high school. We're always together. I have to be there for her. She said, give me 48 hours. Renee, that's what she said. She says, give me 48 hours. I think maybe I can figure this out. I said, it's yours. And so off she went. 2 days later, Renee came back to me. She said, Sam, here's what I figured out. If we use the entire check, the fee from your speaking event in Washington, D.C., we can charter a plane, you can be at graduation Thursday evening, and then we can get you to D.C. in time for the speech, and you can keep both of your commitments. She says, we'll have to go with the low-cost provider, but it will work. Great. Thursday evening, the 17th, the doors open up. I'm busting in there. I want to be sitting up front so I can get great pictures of my daughter. About 9:30, Jackie walks across the stage with a name like Silverstein. You're always at the end of the line. That's just the way it is. We waited till the end of graduation, and we got all the pictures, Jackie and I, the family, the whole thing. Then they whisked me off to Spirit of St. Louis Airport. They put me on a plane. It takes off. About 20 minutes into the flight, the plane starts bouncing around. There must have been a bad storm in the area, and it hit me at that point. I wondered, was it such a great idea to go with the low-cost provider? But obviously, things worked out, and I got to Washington and gave my speech. Renee asked me, who am I accountable to? And that started a conversation, first in my mind and then obviously with her. And the key for us in our lives and in our businesses is critical that we know who we're accountable to. And many times we don't take the time to articulate that. So in part of the time that I have today, I'd like to ask you, who are you accountable to? I know we're eating lunch, but I'm going to interrupt you a little bit. Who are you accountable to? Who are you accountable to? Who are you accountable to? Yes, sir. Thank you. A family. Okay. Family. Fine. We'll stay with family. You're accountable to family. Fine. Who else? Who are you accountable to? This is open to everybody. Jack, yes. Who are you accountable to?
At the very end of the day?
Yes. It's you and God. Okay, great. I love that. Awesome. Who else? Thank you for sharing that. Who else are you accountable to? Yes? Employees. Absolutely. You're accountable to your employees. Who else?
You gotta live with yourself.
Is that what you said?
No, I was going to say my classmates at WC.
Your classmates. Okay. You got to live with yourself. All right. Awesome. Your classmates. Why is that important?
Because we have to form teams and we need to trust each other.
You have to form teams and you need to trust each other. Wow. Powerful. Who else? Who are you accountable to? Friends. You're accountable to your friends. I mean, in our darkest hours, those are the people we turn to, right? Okay. Who else? Who are you accountable to? What? Your spouse. All right. And there's that interconnectivity, that relationship, that they're accountable to you, you're accountable to them. All right, who else? Yes, sir? Your community. Oh, I love that. Yeah. Tell me, why are you accountable to your community?
Because you can't do something that impacts the environment or something that would damage.
Okay, so you have to take care of the community. That's right. You live in, yes, sir. What? Sounds like we're accountable to everyone. I don't know that that's necessarily the case yet or not. We'll hold on to that. All right, so let me ask you this. I appreciate that. I asked you, who are you accountable to? Now I need to know something else. Who are you accountable for? Who are you accountable for? Think about that. Who are you accountable for? Yes, sir. Yourself. Okay. Who else? Your spouse. Oh, you're sitting right next to your spouse. Oh, well, you can't, that's like sucking up in front of everybody, you know? I mean, come on. Okay, very good. Who else? Who are you accountable for? Yes. James. All right, your son, right? Not the girlfriend yet. No. Who else are you accountable for? Those you care for.
People we serve.
People you serve, for instance. Give me an example.
My case, churches.
Your case, churches. Okay. Who else?
Clients.
Clients. Who else? I hear family. Yeah, here, let me help you out a little bit. Accountable to someone, they are responsible for some aspect of your well-being. They affect your life beyond a surface level. When you're accountable to someone, they are people that affect your life beyond a surface level. So, for instance, the students, you're accountable to your principal, right? The principal can affect your life beyond a surface level. You're accountable to your teachers. We're accountable to our parents. We talked about employees. We're accountable to our employees because certainly the performance and what they do will impact our life beyond a surface level. Well, let's go a little deeper. Accountable for someone. You are responsible for some aspect of another individual's well-being. You affect their life beyond a surface level. You know, growing up as children, we're accountable to our parents. I have to do my homework, clean my room, whatever my chores are, whatever those responsibilities are. But now, as an adult, my mom's 91. My wife pays all the bills. I manage all her assets. I'm now accountable for my mother. And so the relationship has changed. And so let me ask you this. Which is a deeper responsibility? Accountable to or accountable for? How many of you think accountable to? Show of hands. How many think accountable for? Show of hands. Okay. When you're accountable for, there is a deeper sense of responsibility. And in the case of my mother, for instance, it's the difference between ownership and stewardship. You know, I manage my assets, and if I make a bad decision, I made a bad decision. Well, I can live with that. But that can't happen with my mother's assets. I have to protect those at all costs. And so when you're accountable for, there's a deeper sense of commitment that takes on a responsibility. It's critical in our lives that we take the time to think about who we're accountable to and who we're accountable for. And I loved talking about your classmates because it's that connectivity between people that will make a difference in our world. When we see ourselves that we have an accountability beyond our small little circle, our little entity, but yet it extends beyond us, that's when we build a more accountable world. And so I applaud you for that, and I look forward to you being in the driver's seat of where we're going as a society and as a community. All right, so we talked about accountability to and accountability for. Now, we're here, we want to talk about accountability, obviously. Here's what I need you to do. I need you to think differently today. Just for the short period of time we have, think differently. I want you to see accountability differently. I want you to experience it from a different perspective. I believe that maybe we've seen accountability wrong in the past, and I'll explain how that goes. And I need you to ask different questions, and it's simply this: how do I apply what I'm learning today in my life or in my business? How can I put this to work? How can I take this view of accountability and have it produce for me? I did a program for a large company, and I came off the stage, and the CEO came up to me, and afterwards he goes, "Sam, that was a great program. I am so glad we do all this stuff." And I felt in that moment that he missed it. He was so worried about patting himself on the back for what he was possibly doing right that he wasn't open to the possibility of what he could become by being better. My due diligence into that organization said they weren't doing all of that stuff. But he was so busy patting himself on the back than asking a simple question: wow, we could be better at this. How do we do that? We could all be better. That's what it's about, trying to get better. Being the best we can be at whatever it is that we're trying to do. So I need you to think differently today. If you were in your business to have more of one of these, I need to know which one it would be. Now, and it could be in your school, your university, it could be at Beta Academy, it doesn't matter. We're talking about profitability, leadership, communication, teamwork, customer experience, change, creativity and innovation, safety. I'm not talking physical safety, I'm talking emotional safety. Attraction and retention of great people, employee engagement, and increased productivity and profitability. Business students, that covers the whole gambit. If you could have more of one of those, which one would you want more of? I'm sorry, what? Leadership. Why do you want more leadership? It all goes downhill. Okay, everything rises and falls on leadership. Everything rises, great, I love that. What would you want more of in your organization?
Productivity.
Productivity. Why productivity?
I think that if you have that, you probably have all the rest.
Okay, and your name? Matt. Sam, nice to meet you. Matt believes if you have more productivity, you might have all the rest. Okay, what else? What would you want more of in your organization? Yes?
For the Wilson for entrepreneurship, I like to see more creativity and innovation because we want to get better every year. So right now we're at number 2 in the nation, but we like to be
Hey, I love that. Okay, so more creativity and innovation, because that's how you're going to get better. You can't just keep doing it the way you've always been doing it. Creativity and innovation is critical for thriving organizations. What else? What would you want more of? Yes, sir.
Attraction and retention.
Oh, don't tell me why.
Because the better students you have, the more you can do.
When you have the best people, you're going to get the best results potentially, right?
And the best students.
Best students. Well, they're people. Aren't your students people? When I was a student, I was a people.
Most of them.
Okay, all right, very good. All right, yes. Trust. Trust isn't even up there. You're going off piste, as they say in the skiing world. You're rogue. I like that. Okay, why do you want more trust?
Because if you don't have trust in your leadership and you don't have trust in your teammates, you're never going to let them do what they need to do in order to accomplish the goal.
Okay, very good. Trust starts with the leader giving it to the people. I can't tell you how many times I've sat down with the leader of an organization and I've heard them say, they've got to earn my trust. Now think about that. If you know that you have to earn my trust, do you trust me?
No.
Yeah. It's broken before we even start, isn't it? But if you're not going to trust someone, don't hire them. Don't bring them into your organization. Don't start the relationship. But when you give trust as a leader, you're going to get it. It's not up there, but I love that. Okay, here's the thing. The reason I asked if you could have more, if you could have more of one of these, which one would you want? Because someone in the room probably, I didn't get your name before. What was your name? Gabriel. It's a pleasure to meet you. Gabriel would have said, I want all of them, because I just, wouldn't you? You would. I love that, see? And we do want all of it. This is the accountability wheel. This is the visualization to the answer to the question, why accountability? Here's what we've discovered about accountability. Accountability is not mandated. You can't go into an organization, I don't care whether it's a school, a business, a university, and say you will be accountable. Well, you can go in and say that, but you're not going to get the results you want. Accountability is inspired in a culture, inside of an organization. That's how it happens. Now, here's what we know. In the organizations that we've worked with, and we've seen a lot, and we have an assessment tool that actually that calculates an accountability score for an organization. We can look inside an organization's culture and find out what's going on around all of this and come up with an accountability score. And what we know is organizations that are high in accountability have great leadership. The accountability is the outflow from that leadership. Organizations where accountability is high, they have great communication. When you have great communication, you have enhanced teamwork. When your teams are working together and getting along, and this is so key, when your people get along inside the organization, they can get along outside of the organization. You cannot deliver world-class customer service unless the people inside the organization have world-class relationships. That's why so many organizations that slap customer service is so important to us on everything they do, but they miss the mark, is because they've never developed the relationships inside the organization to support that. When Beta Academy was up here, you could see the relationships. We had Helen and Letitia was with us yesterday as we worked on behalf of GLO, and you could see how they work together. You could see how the students and the principal and how they communicate and the relationships that are in place and the trust that's in place because of those relationships. That's what drives change. People are open to change when there's trust in place, when there's relationships in place, because now I know when Carl is changing something in the firm, I don't think there's an ulterior motive. This is there when accountability is strong. And it goes on with safety, people feeling safe. When you have all this going, you attract the best people. That's when you attract the best people because they want to work there. Because they hear people that love it there. It's safe to be who we are, to believe what we want to believe, and to be able to say, this is what I believe. And that's okay, even if it's not the same thing as what I believe. We can believe two different things because we're going to connect a different way. I'm going to show you how that happens. When all this is in place, engagement goes up, productivity goes up, profitability goes up. Profitability is the end result. The challenge we have in organizations today is we have leaders that are too focused on the bottom line and not focused on building an organization that inspires accountability in their people. Because when you connect with the people and inspire accountability in the people, then all of your people will focus on the bottom line. As the leader of an organization, you don't have to, because your people would not want to let you down. When there's trust in place, someone's not going to want to let me down. All right, so I said accountability is different. Everything I'm sharing you today started out with a case study that I did about, well, I hate to say now, about 5 years ago, 6 years ago. And so the book Non-Negotiable, which Carl referenced, is written about a bank that's out of Amarillo, Texas, and it was a case study. And so we're going to look at bank stock values just momentarily. And the reason I'm showing this to you is it's just validation for what I am teaching, what I'm sharing today, and that is this. Bank stock values between the year 07 and 12, we're looking at what they did during that time period. Why are we looking at that time period? Great Recession, exactly. All right, anybody can do good when times are good. What happens when the rubber meets the road? This is what happened to bank stocks in the United States during that time period. How many of you wanted to be all in bank stocks during that time period? Yeah, exactly. Not me, okay? So now we're looking at small to medium-sized banks, 1 to 5 billion in assets, because that's what our case study is in. And when we look at that, what do you see? What did you say?
Slightly better.
Slightly better. I love it when someone says slightly better. That's great. The difference between those two lines is the difference between being hit in the head by a baseball bat or a 2x4. They're both going to hurt. That's yours. My pleasure. Okay, so they move the same. They're congruent. They go up at the same time. They go down at the same time, right? All right. Now let's look at Texas publicly traded. The reason we're doing that is because this particular bank that we case study is in the state of Texas, and there are some people that believe that the water is different in Texas. I don't know. Since we're in Texas, you would know better than me. This is their results. What do you see here? What? I hear better. What else do you see? Still lost money. What else? Same trend. Exactly. It is better. Yes, the economy was stronger here during that time period. But if you look at the shape of the line, it's identical. They go up at the same time, they go down at the same time. They bottom out in 08, they bottom out in 10, exactly when the economy was at its worst, and they're pretty much doing the same things. These are organizations that are all being impacted by external forces the same way. A little more or a little less. They're not controlling their own destiny. Now let's look at our case study. Now the name of this bank is Happy State Bank. Now, I see smiles when I say that. People chuckle. I did not make this up for the book. The name of the bank is Happy State Bank. And probably here, yeah, it's a real bank. It was founded in Happy, Texas. Population 620. Happy, Texas. The town without a frown. Go to their website. That's what it says. I'm not making this up. But, I mean, when your name is Happy, you got to be the town without a frown, right? I mean, come on. That's where the bank was founded. And the bank was bought by its current ownership group 29 years ago. The headquarters was moved to Amarillo, Texas. And this is what they did during this time period. And if you extrapolated the lines out in both directions, you would see similar performance. In the 29 years that they've been formed, the value of their stock has never gone down. They are not publicly traded. They are privately traded. Their stock is valued multiple times during the year. This is an organization that goes where they want to go, when they want to go. This is an organization that's totally focused on what they can control, not what they can't control. This is an organization led by a man who knows what he believes, and the values of that organization are in each of the 650 people. And they have built a culture based on a set of values that produces something. Based on all our analysis and any organization that we have worked with, and we've worked with a lot, and a lot of good ones, like Waste Connection, right down the road in Woodlands. They're a world-class organization, and they do an amazing job. And for my money, Happy State Bank is the most accountable organization on the face of the planet. So let's look at that just a little bit deeper so I can share with you how to see accountability differently and make a difference for you. So we got to ask the question, what is accountability? What is accountability? Most people feel like they know what it is. Here's the definition from Webster's. It's accountability, an obligation or willingness to accept a responsibility or to account for one's actions. It's just too difficult. Let me make it real simple. Accountability is keeping your commitments to people. That's it. You're accountable to people. You're responsible for things. That report is not going to hold you accountable. You're responsible to get it done. The homework, you're not accountable for your homework. It's your responsibility to do it, but your accountability lies in your relationships with each other, with your principal, with the president. That's where the accountability is. There's always a relationship involved. And that's why what we've discovered is the organizations that are the highest in accountability have mastered relationships. Now here's what we know. And I'm thrilled that there's students in the high school range and that we have universities here, and that means a lot, because this is where we need to see changes in teaching. Most business leaders focus on the tactical side of their business, and you have to master the tactics if you're going to be successful. But guess what? The tactics are easy. I don't care what industry you're in. Those tactics, I can network with 5 or 6 people and find out what it takes to be good at X. Now, I might not be as good as you, but I can get proficiency and I can get better over time. But it's not the tactical part of your business that will separate you from someone else. It's the spirit of the organization that separates you. And while most leaders are 95% tactics, I maintain it should be 50% tactical, 50% on the spirit of the organization. And what we've discovered is that if you master the tactics, you don't get better at the spirit. But if you master the spirit, your tactical goes through the roof. Because when the spiritual side of your organization is working, the relationships in the organization change. You see people different. Trust goes up. When you see people and value people differently, what happens is they're willing to speak up. They're willing to share ideas. That's where the creativity and innovation comes from. And when you have creativity and innovation, then what happens is you start to come up with disruptive technology and you outstrip the competition. And then you're on that black line where even in a bad economy, you're doing far superior than everyone else. Now, I had a client once that a petrochemical company probably 30 miles from where we're sitting right now, and I won't mention their name, but I'm sitting there with 24 leaders, and as soon as I showed that graph, one guy says, well, we outperform our competition. I told him, I said, the green line's outperforming your competition. The black line's going where you want to go, when you want to go, because you've created an environment where people feel safe, where they want to be accountable. So accountability is keeping your commitments to people. What's a commitment? We need to define that. The stage or quality of being dedicated to a cause, activity? No. A commitment is no matter what. That's a commitment. What's your commitment to your wife sitting next to you? It's a sunny day today, and so, yeah, I guess I'm in. What the heck? I'm here. And what if it's rainy? Is the commitment no matter what?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. You bet it is. Okay, so it's commitments we make between people need to be no matter what. If my commitment to you is not no matter what, we'll never get that trust down. And I know you're all about trust, and I love that. But it starts with a commitment. It's the gray area that gets us in trouble. It's yes or no. Now, what I'm talking about, though, are not these verbal commitments that we make. Oh, I'll show up at 9 o'clock. I'll get my work done. I'll turn the report in. If someone in your organization is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, you should fire them. Why are they there? I mean, I'm assuming that you've already done your job. You've trained them. You've educated them. You've talked to them when they haven't quite come up to standard. And then when they haven't changed, why do you put the same company down the road where he says, oh, we outperform our competition? They were talking about one of their employees that never did their work. Oh, yeah, we go into his inbox, Joe. We just go into his inbox, they're kind of laughing, we take it out of there, we do it ourselves. I'm like, well, why don't you fire him and take his salary? Culture, last term, and then we'll move forward. Culture, it's what's accepted and what's repeated. Every organization has a culture. It's what's accepted and what's repeated. I don't know, can I show up to class late? No, I'm saying no, that's not going to fly. The paddle's coming out now. Yeah, no, that's the culture is you show up on time. The culture is, hey, we're not just here to learn, we're here to have fun with each other. We're here to support each other. We're here to help each other grow. That's what's accepted. That's what's repeated at Beta Academy. That's why it's successful. That's why these young people enjoy going to school there, because of the culture. Is your math different from other schools? Is your English different from other schools? Is the history that you teach different from other schools? No, the only thing that changes your organization from any other school on the face of the planet is your culture. And I don't care what business you're in a commodity business. I love the fact that I'm talking about Happy State Bank. They're a bank. There's nothing more commodity than a $20 bill. It's the same no matter where you go. All right, so you either have a culture by design, which means you've taken the time to create your culture based on a set of values that you chose as leaders with your team. Or you have a culture by default, which means anything goes. Well, maybe I get my work done, maybe I don't. Maybe I show up to class on time, maybe I don't. Maybe, when I'm on air, maybe I'm dressed appropriately, maybe I'm not. It's just whatever goes. Hey, I'm here, maybe, sometimes. All right. Businesses are at a crossroads today. And we all want our people to do more. We want them to keep their commitments. We want them to get their job done. But the real challenge in our businesses, in our organizations, is not the people. The real challenge is what we as leaders think about our people. That's the challenge. Everything we've been taught about accountability is wrong. Accountability is not a way of doing. Accountability is a way of thinking, and specifically, it's how we think about people. Accountability isn't us as leaders trying to manipulate people to get more done. Accountability is leadership, standing up and being responsible first to create an environment that inspires accountability in their people, that inspires their people, whether they're students, workers, you name it, but inspires them to want to be their best. And when leaders accept that accountability on themselves to be committed to their people, then what happens is they start to see their people different. And when we see our people different, we treat them different. We commit to them different, and we get a different result. There are some very specific commitments that leaders take on to their people that create this accountable culture, this culture where that they prioritize and inspire accountability. And based on our time today, I just want to share one of them with you. There's 10 of them. Now, what I need to tell you about these commitments, just so you understand, these are not verbal commitments. It's not me telling Jack, I'll be here at 9. It's a commitment that a leader just takes on, and it's proven through their actions. My dad always told me actions were louder than words. I'm sure a lot of you have heard the same thing. And so the first one of those commitments, or the one that I do want to talk about, is commitment to what you value. Because yesterday we worked as GLO, and several of the trusted advisors to GLO worked with Carl and with Linda to develop their set of non-negotiable core values to live and build their organization by. And that's the cornerstone. Remember I told you at Happy State Bank, it was their values that separated them. When I first met Pat, he was at an accountability roundtable that I had put on in Amarillo. Someone had, my assistant, actually, before she was my assistant, had arranged this. There were leaders from education, from public sector, from business, not-for-profit, government. We all sat around the table, talked about accountability in the community. That's what I'm all about. He got a copy of my then book, No More Excuses. I asked Sharon, who put this together, I said, do you think you can get me a one-on-one in his office? And she said, sure. And so subsequent to that, by about 6-8 weeks, I walk into Pat's office. I walk into his office. Anybody in banking here? You're in banking? Are you a bank president? Someday. Okay, I like that. I like that. Well, let me picture this. I walked into the president of the bank's office, and it's just what you imagined. It was 3 football fields long. Well, maybe it wasn't quite that long. But sitting over here, there was a table, a coffee table, and there was 4 chairs, a sofa, and another chair with rockers. Now, you knew which chair not to sit in, right? It is Texas. I do believe that everybody in Amarillo is packing. I don't know, but you don't sit in that chair. Okay, then 300 yards down here is his desk. And sitting on his desk was No More Excuses. Now, Pat saw that I saw that my book was sitting on his desk. I mean, when you're an author, that's your baby, right? That's your baby. That's James. Come on. You're not going to not see him. And he says, your book has sat on my desk longer than any other book. Now, I don't know, my face must have had a funny look because he immediately said, not because I hadn't read it. He goes, but I've been recommending it to everyone. And I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah. And so we sat down, we talked for 30 minutes. And then Pat gets up and goes to his desk. And I'm thinking, time is up, that's it. But we'd had 30 minutes. Pat has 4 kids, I have 4 kids. We learned about each other. We got to know each other as human beings. And he goes to his desk, and he's got his little inkjet printer, and he wakes up his computer, and he prints something off on his inkjet printer, and then he comes back across the desk, and he comes down to me, and he says, Sam, I want you to know what I believe. And he sticks his hand, if you take that. He says, Sam, I want you to know what I believe. He hands me 4 sheets of paper. These are those 4 sheets of paper. He hands me 4 sheets of paper. And then he just doesn't even breathe. He says, this is going to sound like a crazy question. Well, that puts you on guard, right? He says, a lot of people have said there should be a book written about this little bank. Now, has your life ever stood still and you can think a whole bunch of stuff in 3 nanoseconds? Well, when he said there should be a book written about this bank, I'm thinking, it's just a bank. It's like you put money in, you take money out. Who's going to read a book about a bank? Come on. He said several people have offered to write the book, but none of them felt right. I loved your book, No More Excuses. I love what you're all about. Would you be willing to write the book about our bank? Now, I would have thought at that point in time in my life, 6 years ago, 6.5 years, I would have honestly thought that he would have given me something that was just chock full of numbers. He would have shown me that graph. He would have given me his profit and loss and shown how strong they are financially. It's a bank. He would have shared with me how low their bad loans are and how they're prospering. There would have to be numbers all over it. These are 4 sheets, single space, filled with words. There's not a number on here. But what it's titled is Core Values of Happy State Bank and Trust. See, Pat gave me what was most important to him. It didn't have numbers on it. It's the values that they live by. It's the values that define their culture. It's the values that's created an organization where every week his phone rings with lending teams from around the state begging him to open a branch in their community. telling them, we'll bring the whole lending team into the bank if you'll just open up in our community. All because of a set of values based on something that someone believes. This is why I say the tactical side of the business is nice, but that's not what's going to differentiate you. Now, let me give you just a quick couple ideas of what they talk about. It's really interesting, but a lot of people have values, but you know, the values, quite frankly, they're on a piece of paper, they're in a drawer, they're on the wall. One of our clients had them up on the bathroom wall. I have no idea what that's all about. Integrity, here. Integrity, character, our reputation is everything. Do what's right, always, every time, anytime, no matter what it costs, no matter who it offends, no matter the perceived consequence. Encourage it, reward it, revere it, make it the mantle that we are known for. It is expected. Do you know how to operate in this organization when it comes to integrity? Do you need to go to someone to help you make a decision when you know that all you have to do is do what's right? That's why the organization prospers so much. The decisions are made all the way on the front line, immediately. Where when somebody comes in and you walk into the bank and something's not right, the teller fixes it. And then you know what the teller does? She opens up her tray and she pulls out a pad of paper. They call them Texas scratch pads. And that pad of paper is 10 $1 bills, laminated, glued onto a piece of cardboard with a cover. Or it might be $50 in there, or it could be $100. And they say, look, I know we messed up, but here, let me buy you a cup of coffee. Would that be okay? I fixed the problem, and I'm sorry you had to come in. May I buy you a cup of coffee? And the tellers don't have to account for those. They don't have to add them up at the end of the day. All they have to do is do what's right. I'll share two more values with you. One of their values is family first. I tell you this not because I think it should be your value, but I tell you this because it is their value. Everyone's values are different. Family first means it's 4 o'clock. One of your children has a concert, a band concert, a soccer game, a cheerleading contest, some family event. And if you're at work and your reason for not being at the family event is work, that's a dismissible occurrence. Yes, sir. Now, they'll tell you they've never had to fire anybody over that. And Pat will tell you he doesn't want people to put the bank before their family, because he'll tell you, if you do that, then in his words, well, I'm not going to say what he says, but he says you got bad values. And that's important. Now, I will tell you, on Saturday afternoon, you'll see cars in their parking lot long after they're closed, because people come in, they want to get their job done. Because one of their values is PDI, which is produce, damn it. That's the value. That's what it says on the piece of paper. You got to get your job done. Well, how are you going to be successful if you don't get your job done? Now, I made the mistake of saying, well, that's the opposite of family first. You know, you let them go, but they get their job. No. Yeah, thank you. See, I was wrong. I just didn't get it back then. Family first that's what they believe. Get your job done. That's what they believe. They have 20 values. They have 20 values. I don't think you need 20 values. They happen to have 20 values. And the conversation is this. You have to live all 20. They are not numbered. There is no order. There is no priority. You either believe something or you don't. Remember, I said it's black and white. It's not gray. And when you know what those values are, you know how to live. Yesterday, we had an amazing day yesterday. We worked on values for GLO CPAs. And I love these values. But one of them was, we succeed together. We build healthy business relationships in our organization. We strive to develop ourselves and our colleagues to achieve their maximum potential. We are willing to help our fellow associates to meet their goals. We will do what it takes to get the job done with our team, no matter what it takes. We will work together to create a peaceful, encouraging, working environment. Who doesn't want to be a part of that? And so understanding what it is you value and committing to that as a leader is what starts that process of building that culture. The commitment is first as a leader, because as a leader, you show it, you model it, you commit to it. Then your people will do the same. All right, before we get to the end of our time and before I close things out, I just want to stop for a second. I've shared a lot with you. Are there any questions? Is there anything from your perspective, from application to your world, that you would like clarity on? I'll take those questions. I'm coming. Wendy. Yeah, Wendy, I love you. Okay.
So it's great that we expected the set of values.
Right.
In the best practice,
Mhm.
any suggestions, how do we measure, like, let's say this is the accountability, and so how do we measure in 6 months or a year, how's our organization?
How do you measure if, okay, so here's the thing. Creating the values is relatively easy. We worked hard yesterday, but it's not just a creation of the values, it's what you do with them. And so what has to happen is the values have to become part of every conversation you ever have. You never have a meeting in the organization where you aren't talking about what the values are. In the military, they always talk about the mission, right? And they support that mission with the values. And so the values must always be part of the conversation. Now, what you'll discover over time is you will visually, and you will hear, you'll see it going on, that conversations around the values are going on constantly. The decisions are being made. And so you know that people are living those values. And if you want to get technical, well, I have an assessment that actually measures that inside the organization. So we can actually measure it. But you will see it in the behavior of your people. You will be able to see how people connect, how people get along. You know what the values are. You know if people are living the values or if they're not living the values. And as a leader, someone who's trying to build and protect your culture, then you're going to be monitoring that. And I had met Stan here today for the first time. He comes up to me and says, I want to say hello from Drayton McLean, which was really awesome. Drayton McLean, the former owner of the Astros, happens to be the largest stockholder in Happy State Bank. And so I had the opportunity to have several conversations with him. And he basically said the CEO is responsibility, number one responsibility is to protect the culture. So you will be able to see those values in action when you've created a great set of values. Okay. One last question. We have time. Sir.
Kind of relates. How do you get your people to, I don't know, buy into, but at least buy into your values?
Okay, so how do you get your people to buy in and live it? That's another 2-hour program. No, seriously. So first of all, if you're taking an existing set of values and you're kind of polishing them, or you're starting from scratch, my suggestion is always, let's bring the team in. This is not for the leadership team to do. This is for, if it's a small organization, bring the whole company in. Entrepreneurs, bring everybody in. I guarantee you're going to hear some great stuff. Or bring a cross-section in if you have to, if it's too big, so you can bring a cross-section of people. So then the values have to be, they have to be modeled by leadership, they have to be taught to everyone, and they have to be protected by not allowing people in the organization to live without them. It's always family when you're doing it right. It's always personal between people in business. There is no such thing as this is business, it's not personal. Every interaction with a human being is personal. And when you as a leader, whether you're a student leading in student government, or you're an entrepreneur, you're in business, you're in your community, when you connect with your people on a personal level and they feel that you believe in them and that you're committed to them, then you create a place where they want to be accountable. Carl, thank you for the honor of bringing me in today. It's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.